Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of the Vandal Scoreboard podcast. This week, we have our first visual podcast, which will be up online on YouTube and Facebook at our Vandal Scoreboard Facebook page. I'm Zach Kellogg, and I'll be joined today by Jonah Baker and Braden Kane. We'll take a look at women's basketball now in the WNIT, a men's basketball transferring news before looking at March Madness, the new NFL rule change, and our Mike Leach Awards. Thank you all for listening, and as always, go Vandals. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of the Vandal Scoreboard podcast. Zach Kellogg, Braden Kane, and special guest Jonah Baker, former host of the 4th and Downtown podcast before we had a little rebranding period. And guys, let's just get things started off here. Of course, starting off with Vandal Hoops. The women in the WNIT still in the Sweet 16 after picking up a win against Denver at home in front of a packed Memorial Gym. Jonah, since you're our guest, we'll kind of start with you. All of us were kind of at that game, but kind of what were your thoughts, especially in that third quarter when Idaho went on that insane streak?
Well, I remember coming out of that halftime period, Zach, we were talking, down on press row, and it just seemed like absolutely nothing was working for the Vandals. And we learned from Coach Neely afterwards that a lot of that was due to the fact that, just nothing was happening for the team in the paint. Couldn't get any boards, couldn't do anything to stop Denver on their drive and kicks. But it felt like all of that needed to change coming into the second half, and we really signaled out Lizzie Klinker as somebody that needed to step up and kind of make a difference. But we were wrong. We got a completely different showing from this team in the second half, particularly in the third quarter when they went on perhaps the most incredible single quarter performance I've ever seen in a 36-9 run. And
it's crazy.
You only need one of those to flip the momentum of an entire game, we found out.
Yeah, and then Natalie Klinker and Haley Christopher, those two players grabbing almost everything that was coming off the offensive glass, which really gave a ton of second chance opportunities. Markson, Pierce, and friends all knocking down threes. Braden, you were there shooting that game as well. Kind of what were your thoughts? As Jonah's kind of saying, just that amazing run.
First thought was Denver was just straight up more talented than us, I thought, and in every aspect.
Averaging over 80 points a game.
Exactly. All four of their girls could just cross any of us up and get to the rim kind of whenever they wanted. Mm-hmm. And I really thought they were going to keep feeding Jasmine Jeffcoat. She was making everything in the first half, and I was really confused on why they kind of went away from that in the second half. I feel like once we went on that run, they just felt like they needed to follow up our threes with outside shots. And I was like, you get anything you want in the paint right now. Yeah. I don't know why you guys are going away from that, but like Jonah said, crazy third quarter, really fun to watch, especially with a 1,200 plus crowd there in Memorial Gymnasium. I've never seen Mem Gym that packed. So
I don't think I've ever seen any really Vandal sport that packed. That was one of the best environments I've ever been in. Literally in that third quarter, that's what you dream of I'm guessing as a player, just having the crowd scream anytime you make a bucket.
And it's what you need to have a run like that in the third quarter. You need that momentum from the crowd when you hit a three, and then they're chanting defense, when you get back, and that and we need that because I think our defense is our biggest, thing that our team needs to work on. But they played good in the second half, so.
Great defense across the board. And as you said, that Denver team we were watching, they are just a very talented squad, someone I don't think we've ever played before.
Yeah.
And the fact that we were able to go on this run, Friends and Pierce, after having those touch stretch of a couple games in the Big Sky tournament against Idaho State at the end of the year, it was really nice to see them kind of get back in the ways we've been seeing all year, knocking down threes, Pierce knocking down, Friends getting the rim and knocking down outside shots.
Mm-hmm. I would say they would probably win the Big Sky if they were in the Big Sky.
Oh yeah, you go back and you have that particular game played over again in the Big Sky tournament, and I think that, like we were saying, the atmosphere had a lot to play into that too, and Coach Newley certainly had a lot to say about it at the end of the game.
Yep.
But there's just so many different things that actually went Idaho's way in this this game, and like you mentioned with Jeffcoat, I don't really know that was one of the things that I identified earlier in the game that was just why in the world would you not try and continue to pursue this? Everything was working for them, especially in getting her to the line. Idaho, we don't have the size, and we'll talk about that a little bit later with the upcoming matchup against Arizona, but we don't have the size to match up with other teams, right? So when you've got that size advantage like Denver had, they also had an incredible advantage in terms of the energy that they brought. Mm-hmm. Just seemed like they were literally running us off the court in the first half with just the energy that they brought in transition. And for whatever reason, that changed.
Luckily, we were hitting in the first half. That could have been an easy double-digit, deficit we would have had to come back from. But luckily, we shot well, in Mem Gym like we should. So
yeah, for sure. Even when the first half ended and we were only down 9 points, I was kind of surprised because it didn't feel like we were only down 9. I felt like we were down almost 20 points or something like that, just from, like you guys saying, the energy. But as Jonah kind of said, our next matchup in the Sweet 16 of the WNIT, we will be playing Arizona on the road. They beat Pacific last week. This will be, I think, our toughest challenge of the year possibly since playing Stanford and Texas Tech. We kind of showed that we can win those games, but this is going to be a very tough challenge because this is such a tall team, very athletic. It's a Pac-12 school, one of the Power Fives. I mean, Braden, first starting with you, what kind of odds do you give us to kind of win this game? What will have to go right?
Well, for our ARG staff picks, I said that we'll lose 58-69. They're just tall. I mean, I think their shortest player was 5'7", which, that's 2 or 3 inches taller than Taylor Pierce, like, one of our shortest players. So, and then they just, it's a Pac-12 team. They play a lot of good talent the entire year. And like Jonas said, we just kind of have trouble playing against teams that are just a lot taller than us, and we can't really defend them that well. They can almost just kind of score whenever they want, in my eyes. But I think we have to play good defense if we want to stick in it. And you have to when you play these Pac-12 teams. You don't get an upset by just hitting a bunch of threes. You need to do it on the other end of the floor too. Yeah,
without a doubt. I was gonna say the same thing. We have to knock down, I would say, about 50% of our shots from beyond the arc, and Lizzie Klinker's gonna have to have another huge scoring night, as we kind of saw in the Big Sky tournament, and just kind of having at the end of the season, and against Loyola Marymount down in LA. This is gonna be really everything's gonna have to click, and I mean this is probably gonna be, if we're kind of thinking realistically here, probably our last win in the WNIT if we get this far, because when you get to the Elite Eight, that's when you start playing schools that are just...
That barely missed the tournament.
And they are just legitimately just very solid teams.
Right. And I mean, like you said, having everything go right is basically what happened against Denver.
Yeah.
Like, counting on that to happen 2 games in a row is pretty unlikely. But like we mentioned earlier, like Klinker is probably going to be the key here. Like she put up 24 and 21 in the 2 games prior to the matchup with Denver, and really seemed like she was going to be that centerpiece of Idaho's team going into next season since she's only a junior, and it's all going to start and it's all going to revolve around her in this upcoming matchup. Yeah, she is going to be undersized in the post against like the continuous like rotation of forwards that Arizona is going to put out. They even have a freshman center at 6'6", who's we're just not going to make anything happen there.
Yes,
they are just such a deep team. Like just looking at like just how many games are played, and just kind of the stats they've been putting up, they're just a deep, solid team.
So other than 5'7", their next shortest player is 5'9", which is I would say above average height for anyone, just women in general. So
it's going to be a very interesting game. I mean, they don't have a ton of a home court advantage. We're kind of touching on that right before this. Not a ton of fans coming to the games. So maybe we'll catch them in a slump. But, I mean, they picked up a pretty good win against a pretty solid Pacific team out of the West Coast Conference. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if we can maybe pull off an upset. But, I mean, I kind of had the same idea going into the game against Denver. It's not going to be relying on Pierce or friends. It's going to be relying on Gina Marks and Lizzie Klinker, Natalie Klinker, Haley Christopher, Janie King if she comes off the bench, Izzy Haddon, making sure those players don't get into foul trouble and they can provide solid scoring and also get those stops defensively, as kind of you said, Brandon.
What escapes me is why he doesn't have set plays for other players other than Ferenz or Pierce. I'm like, get Lizzie coming off a nice little screen on the block to get her little mid-range jump shot that she's really good at hitting. And I just don't understand that sometimes, but...
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, and then if there's going to be one key as far as the defensive side of the ball goes, it's going to have to be paying extreme attention to Ari McDonald, redshirt sophomore for University of Arizona. She was actually transferred from Washington, was an all-conference freshman team 2 years ago since she redshirted last year, and leads the Wildcats in just about every single offensive metric. I mean, 24.5 points per game is actually the highest in the Pac-12 this year.
Like that is just
absolutely
insane.
Absolutely remarkable.
Ahead of Ionescu for Morgan. That's impressive because she puts up numbers.
She's absolutely killed it this year, and but what's even more impressive is that she isn't the kind of player that Taylor Pierce is. There's so much of her game is based off of using those forwards, getting into the pick and roll kind of situations, and getting much higher percentage shots than just getting a little bit of separation and jacking a 3. So then, like we saw in the game against Denver, that could be a bit of an issue for the Idaho team to say the least.
Yeah, and so now we'll transition into the men's team at U of I. So Cam Tyson, kind of the freshman standout this past year for the Vandals.
Did he get freshman of the year? I never saw anything on that.
I don't believe so, but I mean he was still super impressive.
Second,
and he broke the record for most threes by a freshman or quickest freshman to 100 points. But he has officially announced that he is looking for transfer options right now and is going to leave the Vandals. What do you guys kind of think initially of this kind of move of him just deciding to kind of leave after his first year?
Cam's a great shooter. He's a great setup shooter. he has a lot of stuff he has to work on. I'm not sure if he'll get any amazing places that will want him to come transfer. I mean, maybe some, mid-major, Big Sky level type schools and stuff. But, I mean, I feel like he lacks some athleticism. His ball handling needs some work. He definitely would get uncomfortable at the top of the key if guys were guarding him close. He's not that great at getting to the rim, and he's not consistent at doing it either. And usually when he gets to the rim, he's fading away. He's not initiating contact. Mm-hmm. And his defense is horrible. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. His defense is really bad. So.
Yeah, well, it's been a little while since we've seen somebody that's this strictly a shooter, Mm-hmm. I mean, like, even when it comes to, like you said, he needs somebody to create his own shot for him, which thankfully Trayvon did a pretty decent job of. I mean, without him, he's probably not setting, freshman records for three-pointers. But I mean, like, the dude's literally averaging under 2 assists per game. As a guard, as an undersized guard, you can't really do that at the Division I level. And, I mean, there's just not really there was a way forward for him to become like that, to develop into that sort of player with Idaho, just since we're gonna have a dearth of guards after Trayvon graduates, and there's just Tyson was gonna be that next guy up. So it's gonna be interesting to see who wants to give him that opportunity, especially since he was so lightly recruited coming out of high school. It's not exactly there's a ton of second options for him here.
Yeah, just kind of you're saying that he wasn't a huge, highly recruited guy coming out of high school because his defense needs work, ball handling, getting to the rim, creating for other players. He really all he had for him was shooting, and he was doing a really great job of that.
Because we set him up.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally every single time.
And it's unfortunate that he's just kind of just leaving before he can really start developing as a player. Yeah. I thought we'd at least get him for another year or two, because that's next year. We're not graduating anyone. We're gonna have the same team right back again. But I mean, I guess he just didn't like the fit, and I mean, I can't.
It's a society of instant gratification. You don't want to wait. You don't want to work for things. And I get that a 5-win season is really tough, only winning 2 games in the Big Sky and having that big gap between beating Eastern in January, whenever it was, and then you don't get another win until the end of February or maybe early March. I can't remember when it was.
I think it was the end of February. It's against that Sac State team.
But also rumors. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's true. I guess Geno West is also looking to transfer.
Really? Yeah. I mean, he hasn't got a ton of playing time. Even from last year, when
Oregon Player of the Year coming out of high school, 5A, USA Today, Oregon Player of the Year.
Never translated though.
Yeah,
he had we always said he had potential. He could we were saying that at the beginning of the season, he had potential to be one of these good players, but he just never has quite really morphed that onto the court or really kind of shown that when playing. So I mean, be interesting to see if he officially decides to go. If Coach Verley can kind of talk him back, being like, hey, you got 2 more years here. Let's keep you here and just kind of see what happens.
He's about to get minutes, especially with Cam transferring. It's now you have to kind of come in and take that position.
Exactly.
But and then rumors, or not rumors, but Delvion Jackson, UC Davis freshman. Did he just sit out last year?
I think he redshirted. That's what
that's
what I'm thinking happened. I don't know a ton about him, except that we all kind of know him from living down in the Treasure Valley because he went to Centennial High School in Boise.
Played with my little brother on Hoop Dreams, so I've watched him play for a while.
He injured me my senior year, my last game. He almost tore my MCL by running into me. So I got a pretty good size at Delvion. He's a big, athletic dude.
Yeah. Really athletic.
He is. He needs to work on, just in terms of his fundamentals. But I'm pretty sure he's going to come in as a redshirt freshman or redshirt sophomore.
So he is looking to transfer here. We can get that.
He came here. And he practiced with the team. They had a little scrimmage. There were some guys that were there too. I got some guys from Washington State that might be looking to come over. I'm not sure of their names. Then there were some Moscow High guys like Gabe Quinnett and I think not Ben Postel. There's another player, senior there, that might have played. Just maybe see walk-on role. Not sure about them since, they're high school guys, not highly recruited. But, Delvion Jackson, I think that'd be a huge pickup for us in terms of actually...
Especially if he's actually 6'7". That means he went up at least 2 inches since high school. 2 or 3.
And even if he isn't 6'7" as he's listed, that's he's still probably 6'5".
He's a guaranteed 6'4", 6'5".
It's that's still a huge athletic guy that we can develop into a great player by the time he's a senior or junior here if he does decide to transfer.
And really, that's the one thing that this team has been missing, especially this past year, is there's just kind of a dearth of athleticism. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of guys that can shoot, but outside of Trayvon, are you really looking at one particular guy and thinking, man, off the dribble, that guy could beat anyone?
Yeah. I would say our most athletic guy was definitely Kadeem Sam.
Yeah.
And even I guess he was playing out of position too. We threw him down on the 4. He's kind of more of a stretch 3 guy, so.
Yeah, this next season, I'm really excited to see where this team can go, kind of have them work in the offseason, see where they can go next winter. I think we can make some big strides, maybe not win the Big Sky or anything, but, move up from being that last place team, maybe move to the middle of the pack.
We can only go up.
I know. We were at the Rock Farm, we can only go up. All right, so now we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at our March Madness brackets, how we're doing, and also take a look at the new NFL rule that was just passed. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Vandal Scoreboard podcast. Zach Kellogg, Jonah Baker, Braden Kane. And now we're just going to jump right into March Madness. We are in full swing. Sweet 16 is coming up this week. First up, Jonah, how's your bracket doing so far? You haven't been on here, so you doing okay?
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks really bad. I only got 11 out of 16 so far. I did not have any faith in Tennessee or Houston to get this far. I also really, really believed in Cincinnati, which was a mistake to say the least.
Cincinnati?
A mistake to say the least. Had a lot of faith in defense this year, but just didn't work out for me. But everything's. I still have a lot of faith for my final pick. I still think that North Carolina is going to pull it out in the end, and I'm going to ride that until Kobe White's legs run out, I guess.
All right, Brady, how's your Sweet 16 looking right now?
I am 12 for 16 for my Sweet 16. I had Buffalo in there. They just lost to Tech.
Likewise.
Fletcher McGee decided to not show up in the biggest game of his life and go 0 for 13 from behind the arc. So I hope he has a Jimmer Fredette career in the NBA. That's what I hope for him.
Oh, man.
So that's another team that's not in my Sweet 16 that I had. I had Wisconsin in there. I thought I'm, a big proponent of the Big Ten. So
yeah.
And then let's see. The last team I didn't get in there was I had Murray State going. I had to pick one team, to go.
I thought Murray State had a legitimate shot to make a run to the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight, but
I should have re-evaluated that Florida State matchup and just been like, you know what, 7-4 down low plus Terrence Mann's a pretty good player. I'm assuming he's probably leaving to go to the draft this next year. So
probably, but Florida State looked bad in their first round matchup. They just looked
I guess Vermont.
Vermont isn't not a powerhouse by any stretch of the word, but Florida State should have honestly lost that game with how they were playing, but then they just pulled it together against Murray State. But yeah, I'm kind of the same boat, 12 of 16 in my Sweet 16. Two of my kind of like Cinderella stories aren't panning out. Belmont, I thought would make I just looking at the stats, I thought they had a shot, but nope, and they didn't make it. And then Florida, I thought would make it to my Elite Eight. Wisconsin, I got wrong, and then Iowa State. Yeah, I thought Florida. I thought they were another. I don't know. I just had a good feeling about them. I was wrong. I was totally wrong.
What's his name? Calvion Johnson or whatever is one of their freshmen.
Yeah.
He hit that game winner against Tennessee, I think, or somebody, and he had a game winner against someone in the SEC tournament. But
I think it was Tennessee.
I like him.
I'll bet that was probably one of the more popular upsets to pick was Florida against Nevada. It was be pretty difficult to outside of Kansas perhaps, since you're always going to underperform as the number one overall coming into the season. But Nevada, a lot of teams, a lot of pundits at least thought that this was a potential undefeated team, and to not even win your conference is pretty.
Pretty bad, yeah.
Yeah, we were kind of falling this year.
Utah State wasn't bad though.
No,
State's a good team.
Utah State, San Diego State, those are pretty solid schools. And then the Mountain West, Nevada just didn't live up to they had that run last year, and they just couldn't live up to it again this year. But we usually see that. Because, even a year, the entire landscape of college basketball usually can shift. And outside of, Duke and, those higher, and North Carolina, those higher teams.
One of those Martin twins. I was watching them shoot free throws in that game. I'm like, he was, going like Marco Fultz. Double bumping. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? That's your shot.
All right. So what is one of your guys' biggest surprises so far from the tournament right now?
All right, I got dibs on Oregon.
No, I was going to say, that
it's not. Like you were saying, Zach, it's been a rough year for Cinderellas. Outside, we have 112 and 1-5. And everything else is chalk so far in the bracket.
First time since I think '95 that all 1, 2, and 3 seeds made it to the Sweet 16. So
I thought this was one of the most wide open years we've ever had in terms of the tournament, because every team looked like they had faults and could be beaten, but the higher seeds just keep on winning. And it seems like the one year where I kind of projected Cinderella's to kind of take over, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah, we had enough of the feel good stories underneath it with Fletcher McGee and John Morant, right? If you just and especially with Wofford, thinking that there was going to be enough surrounding talent for McGee to actually get to the Sweet 16.
And they competed with him playing so bad.
They only lost by 6, and it was all because he couldn't.
And they had chances at the end.
Yeah, he couldn't even buy a shot from deep.
Exactly.
Literally couldn't buy one.
But yeah, so I guess that just means
13.
that, but yeah, going back to your original question of the biggest upset so far, Oregon over Wisconsin probably wasn't the biggest upset coming into the tournament, but just it is an upset in and of itself that Oregon is at this point. To be able to get this far without Bol Bol going out in the very beginning of the season and relying on, Peyton Pritchard,
who's been playing very well,
who's playing incredibly at this point. Like, there's a very real chance that they could knock off Virginia. I mean, we saw how much they struggled in the first half against Gardner-Webb. Thought it was almost a second consecutive year.
Virginia,
sure
that would have been so bad.
Decent chance from here on out that Tony Bennett and his team might just like decline a 1 seed and like ask for a 2. But like,
we're not taking it.
Exactly.
We're not taking that
We're
1 seed.
Not worth the bad.
That'd be hilarious.
But yeah, I think Oregon has been the biggest upset so far just by virtue of being the lowest seed, and I think that they also have the best chance to pull one off in the coming.
So I'm not going to say biggest surprise. Most impressive, I think, is Houston making it this far. They're kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They're proving their talent and their worth by, as a 3 seed, getting this far, beating Ohio State handily, I feel like.
Yeah.
And Ohio State was shooting the crap out of the ball, man. Like, they had 7 threes in the first half. They averaged like 6 a game.
Yeah, so. Ohio State they have been not great at all this season. And I mean, the fact that they were able to pull off that win against Iowa State and then Houston just coming in and really controlling that game. I mean, yeah, Houston was a team I didn't have a ton of faith in because like they're a 3 seed, but I mean, they're just not very big.
You never know what the AAC did.
UCF beat them pretty well, I mean, during the regular season. So I was like, yeah, Houston, I don't have a ton of faith in them. But now, I mean, they've kind of this Houston-Kentucky game, 3 versus 2, it's gonna be really interesting. I'm gonna keep my eye on that.
I got Houston winning. I thought they were gonna be playing Wofford, but still, I mean, at least I have a team that's in there that can win. But I like Corey Davis Jr. a lot. I think he's a good leader, and he's really, he's improved his draft stock, I would say, quite a bit since, just this season and in the tournament. So
yeah, without a doubt. I mean, my biggest surprise was kind of same as you, Jonah. It was Oregon being as good as they are, losing Bol at the start of the year. I mean, I didn't really expect them to make it to the tournament. I thought they were going to make a good NIT run. But they just turned it around. They figured things out. I mean, huge props to that Oregon program and what they've been able to accomplish. I mean, yeah, like as we kind of said, no one really expected them to get this far. And the fact that they're a 12 seed and they're playing a Virginia team that is vulnerable, looks like they can take a loss. I mean, who knows? We could see an Oregon, possibly Tennessee or Purdue matchup in the Elite Eight, which would be another great game. And Oregon could be that Cinderella story this year.
Yeah, good to see a little bit of a showing from the Pac-12 this year.
Something.
Calling it a Power 5 conference at this point, especially in basketball, has been a remarkable stretch to say the least. But at least we've got something going for us.
All right,
maybe in football too. I mean, bad year for Pac-12 football last year too. So
yeah, without a doubt. So what's been kind of the best game you guys have seen so far in the tournament?
Just out of pure entertainment value so far was the Auburn-Kansas game this past weekend. I mean,
they couldn't miss.
It was great because like I tuned in at halftime and it was just this entire simulcast of like Charles Barkley just like jumping out of his seat and getting really excited, right? And I was just like, normally you hate Charles Barkley, right? Like he's just that guy that's supposed to be the GOAT, that's supposed to be someone you laugh at, and just to see like him and Auburn just absolutely take it to a Kansas team that honestly did not even really deserve to be a 4 seed. No, it was incredible, and just to watch them hit 3 after 3 after 3,
and then
it was
both
cathartic.
teams came out and I think it was like 10 straight possessions. They just bucket, and I was like, what is going on right now? And I love watching Bruce Pearl just get out of his mind mad on the sideline. I'm happy he came back into coaching.
Man, that guy's tie was way too tight. He's gonna like I'm surprised he wasn't going like just super red in the face.
I would say the best one I've seen is UCF Duke. I mean, Duke should have lost that game.
Yeah, they should have lost that
Zion
game.
missed that free throw, and RJ Barrett just happened to get that board in the putback because Taco Fall was out because of his foul. Man, and then they missed those 2 runners right at the end.
That heartbreaking locker room video. I know you guys have probably all seen.
Yeah. Oh, that was your Cinderella right there too, because their coach too, Coach Dawkins. He's a disciple of Coach K's, and I mean you got the whole passing of the torch narrative. You got the guy in Taco Fall, Aubrey Dawkins, the coach's son, playing on the team too.
Aubrey Dawkins has been impressing me a lot.
Stephen A. was saying that he's like Aubrey Dawkins is better than RJ Barrett. He's like, I'll say it right now.
Like right after the game, I tweeted. I looked at Aubrey Dawkins' stats. I'm like, he's had a pretty solid year. I'm like, I was saying, might as well forego your senior year, try and jump in the draft because I mean, this is probably because after a game like you had right there against this Duke team, your draft stock just shot through the roof. I mean, you're a mid-round first-round pick or even low first-round pick. You might as well get picked up.
The thing that kind of plays into that locker room video is the whole should college players be paid? Because it's like you heard Coach Dawkins say, you guys have invested so much this year. We said it's going to end in tears or it's going to end in joy, and happiness. And he's like, and sadly it ends in tears. But you saw how much work these guys have put into the point where you do cry because you've worked so hard that whole year. And at that point, it's not about money, it's not about anything. It's just about pure competition and wanting to win. So I thought that was a really cool, beautiful video to see.
Yeah, just seeing those players, just their love of the game, and like you said, just that raw emotion. There was no music, there were no cuts, it was just the players in the locker room. I mean, we haven't, I don't think any of us have played at that kind of level, but I mean, we've all been a level in sports, or been in a moment in sports where it's like you just realize it's over.
Yeah.
We're done. We lost.
Yep.
And it's just kind of, it's heartbreaking to see these players, but it's also nice to kind of see them humanized. It's just you can kind of relate to these players and being like, wow, it's over for them, and they're really soaking it in right now.
My one and only state basketball game. Definitely kind of had those feelings at the end.
But now I'm just excited to see Taco Fall go to the NBA and see how he's going to do, because, man, he has been tremendous this year. Over the time that he kind of came in initially as a freshman, just kind of the 7'6" guy, and turning into a legitimate star within college basketball.
Put on some muscle, some weight, which is huge. You need to if you're going to be that big. So definitely one of the bigger, probably the biggest guy we've seen since Yao Ming when it comes to having that size too, and not being like a Boban. Who's
actually having
really
skill.
skinny. Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys, and now we'll kind of transition into the Sweet 16. I mean, I'm really excited for this. What do you guys think will be the best matchup here for the Sweet 16?
I'm really looking forward to the Gonzaga-Florida State matchup. I mean, this is just a couple of teams, like we said earlier, I mean, Florida State struggled a little bit against Vermont, but really left no doubt against John Morant and Murray State. These are the two teams I think that coming into this part of the tournament are probably the hottest. Gonzaga obviously had no troubles whatsoever with Farley Dickinson and Baylor. And, coming off of that loss against St. Mary's, we're all wondering, how is this going to affect this team? And clearly Mark Few's squad is not at all bothered.
Mark Few is pretty good at this coaching thing. So
as it happens, he's kind of good at it.
Yeah, so honestly for me, North Carolina, Auburn. I think it's going to be just a fireworks show. Auburn is super hot right now. North Carolina, big win over Washington after kind of a scare against Iona. I mean, they were down at halftime against that 16 seed. But, I mean, North Carolina, Kobe White, Kevin Love Jr., as we like to call him.
Yeah, Luke May, dude. Luke May Jr.
But, I mean, this North Carolina team, I've been enjoying watching all season. And this Auburn team, they're hot right now. I mean, I give them – this could be a potential upset. I think North Carolina wins. But I think this is really going to come down to the last couple minutes.
I wish I could pick every one, honestly, because they all look really good. You get a rematch in the ACC with Duke and Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
But,
great little CBS storyline here. Got Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley sitting next to each other.
But I would say it's probably either. I would go with so I'm just gonna name three really fast.
Yeah,
I have to.
We got time. Let's walk through the game. So what's your first one?
Virginia, Oregon. Obviously, you need to, just because, like we said, Oregon's a Cinderella team this year. How good can Peyton Pritchard play for? He's carrying this team in a sense all the way to this point. Obviously, they're all playing well. I mean, one player just can't really take your team all the way, but I think that'll be an interesting matchup because, as we've said, Virginia's not the best tournament team necessarily, and kind of like what Jonah said, it's almost like they would rather not have a 1 seed coming into the tournament sometimes. Tennessee, Purdue. Tennessee is the team I picked to win the championship, and I think that's going to be a really defensive, down-to-the-wire game. It's two teams that play inside out, so I'm happy to see some good banging down low, getting all physical down there. So I'm excited to see that. I think Grant Williams and Schofield will have to have a big game. And then Texas Tech and Michigan, because it's the top two defensive teams in the nation. So that'll be interesting to see. And I have Michigan winning that game, and I also have Virginia winning the Oregon one. So those are my three that I think will be really good games to watch. But like I said, all of them are going to be amazing. Houston, Kentucky is going to be obviously a great game too. So
definitely.
Yeah, Sweet 16 is sometimes it's usually when we have the best games because it's right at that turning point where teams all right, we're at a legitimate We're deep in the tournament right now.
You're getting close.
But we're right there from being a legitimate title contender when you get to the Elite Eight.
And then the venues change when you get to the Elite Eight, right? Or do they already change?
They switch for the Sweet 16.
Okay.
Sweet 16, then the Elite Eight, Final Four, and then the championship.
Yeah.
Houston, Kentucky. I mean, let's just run through this one too. I mean, that's just Kentucky. We were kind of talking this. They were a bit of they were 2 seed, but they were a bit of a quiet team this year. Not that headline-grabbing team as they kind of been for the past few years.
You're not playing a bunch of freshmen for
exactly.
once.
Yeah. Instead, it's a transfer year, right? You got Reed Travis and you got P.J. Washington. Obviously, Washington not anymore, but at the beginning of the season, P.J.
Will
Washington
he come back though? That's a huge storyline. I think that's a huge factor for the game. They've been saying that they've been taking off the cast and checking him every week, and then they say either cast back on or he's good to go. So I think that'll be a huge storyline. Sorry to cut you off, Jonah, but
no, yeah, that's absolutely a good point. And Washington too. I mean, since he's not one of those freshmen that's going to be a lottery pick. I mean, there's probably a little bit more incentive for him to like come back, and if he is hurt, then play hurt, because like this might be the biggest stage that he gets a chance to play on. He's not going to be much more than like a mid-late second-round pick if he does actually go to the NBA.
And even then, you're just going to go to the G League if you're drafted that.
It's like Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
Just playing his debut G League NBA playoff game, and he actually went off, but it's the G League, so.
Zach, which of the 1 seeds do you think has the easiest road to the Final Four?
Man, I
like
would say Duke, because, I mean,
Probably.
Virginia Tech, I mean, they're ACC, and, I mean, Michigan State, they're losing one of their starting power forwards, and LSU is just kind of like they're on the brink of turmoil right now, losing their head coach and all that stuff. So I would say Duke, and then I was going to – Gonzaga, I think, has the hardest road to the Final Four at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida State's pretty hard now. They dominated Murray State, who I thought had a chance to beat them. I was wrong. And then Texas Tech, Michigan, whoever wins that one, that's going to be a defensive battle. Yeah, I'd say Duke has the easiest road. Then Gonzaga is going to have easily the toughest road to the Final Four or even the championship, because they'll have to go through Duke ultimately in the end if they do reach the Final Four, and if Duke reaches that. It is going to be very interesting. And then, I mean...
North Carolina's isn't bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, North Carolina, like, they have...
I think they would handle Kentucky pretty easily.
Auburn's just going to have to shoot the hell out of the ball in order to have a chance.
Yeah, they are.
And if they play Houston, Houston's going to lose. I mean, if North Carolina, Houston, I mean, Houston, like, they're a good mid-major team, but I mean, or like a good like group of 5, but I mean, North Carolina's just
it's a great program
level.
revival story.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
It's awesome to see Houston back and actually have a legitimate program after, having the, what was it called, Phi Slamma Jamma, stuff way back in the day. So
I mean, this is the first time they got to the Sweet 16 since Olajuwon was there, right?
Yeah. Which is
Which
Jamma,
it's just like it's just like crazy to think that much time has passed to this point.
It's when do they have Drexler too on that team?
Yeah, I think so.
wanna say, yeah.
Speaking of a lot of time passing, it's been since 1984 since Virginia made the Final Four. So it may look
Ralph Sampson too.
it may look easy with the game against Oregon, and then probably there's so many defensive-minded teams at this point of the tournament between Virginia, Purdue, Tennessee. And like you were saying with the Gonzaga matchup, too, just to briefly touch on that, I mean, like, they really struggled against the St. Mary's team that slowed the game all the way down, and that is exactly what Texas Tech and Michigan are going to try to do, whoever wins that game.
Yeah, and Virginia, like, playing a hot Oregon team right now that has, like, all the spiritual momentum behind them in terms of being a Cinderella.
Oh, yeah.
And then whoever comes out of Purdue, Tennessee, that's going to be another tough challenge if they're able to get through that. If Virginia wins those games, I'll give them some credit and give them a chance to be a title contender, but I don't think they're going to get past the Elite Eight.
I don't think they will.
Because I have no faith in Virginia. If at that point it's going to be Tennessee or Purdue that beats them.
There's a mental block for sure.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to transition before our Mike Leach Awards into a new rule that was just passed yesterday. The NFL officially allowing coaches and referees to review pass interference calls. Bit off of the beaten path in terms of basketball, which we have been covering, kind of saving NFL news. But this is just, like, they just passed this from the owners. This is huge news in terms of the game of
Is it any one that they throw?
Even if it's not thrown.
Yep, even non-calls.
It's just like, if you think there's a pass interference call, you can challenge it.
Yep.
It's like, dude, you can.
There's one.
You're eliminating. It's gonna.
All right, so this is your initial thoughts of this.
I watched some analyst had a really good conversation. I think it might have been Steve Young, I think maybe.
Okay.
He talked about how he's like, you're completely eliminating the whole concept of good, defensive backs against receivers, and like maybe it was or wasn't a call, but now that you can throw that challenge flag, and now it's going to be, I think it's bad. I think it's going to screw up a lot of flow in the game, and then it's just going to change how defensive backs have to guard now. They've always kind of gotten away with some jersey pulling. They've always gotten away with some stuff that probably could have been thrown. But now that you can challenge that, it's like they're going to challenge everything now.
It's difficult. It's especially difficult when like so much of this is immediately revisionist history, right? I mean, like what we got in that NFC Championship game where like Nickel Roby-Coleman just got away with one of the worst PI calls in history, but like those have been happening for like the entire history of the NFL, and like to immediately come back and say like have a rule less than, what is it now, like 2 months later, and think that this is going to fix everything seems a little bit short-sighted. I mean, like I don't want the Saints or any other team to be robbed of a chance at going to the Super Bowl like that, but it seems a little bit fast.
Yeah, they obviously are not over it.
No.
Still, I don't think they will be until a year from when they're in the championship potentially again. So
and the big question is like, where will you draw the line and what is and isn't
exactly
call? And then that's going to be huge up to debate, and then someone's going to make a call like that, and it's going to be like, all right, now we're going to get another challenge so we can have it, make sure we get all these calls. No. Now, if it's just going to slow the game, the big thing about the NFL is they want to speed up the pace of play. Offense is ruining the league.
This is not speeding it up at all.
This will slow it down to a grind and big games, especially since you can have up to 3 challenges if you win them, and if you throw a challenge flag on a PI, you're probably going to get it right. If you see like, oh, that guy got fouled right there and that was a PI, I mean, it's going to slow the pace of play. We're going to have these reviews, and it's just going to...
And the reality is there's a penalty on every play. Every single play, there's probably some holding, there's probably something going on.
There's holding, there's offsides, there's probably a little face mask, there's probably a little too much ground and blocking the back.
That's the other big thing that you got to think about now. Now this opens avenues to say, so should we be able to review holding now? Now someone's going to be complaining about that down the road. And now you're going to be able to challenge and throw flags for holding, which I said happens every single play.
I think the best case scenario for this rule is if there's a real impetus from like the referees and like from the top down to really make sure that they don't do anything to review these plays, right? Like, there's not any calls in from New York or anything to be like, you need to review that play right now because, it needs to come strictly from the coaches.
I think so, yeah. I totally agree with that. I think it's just coaches that need to be like, hey, I think there was a foul right there. We need to review this. Because then if you get New York involved in this and the officials, because then they're going to start reviewing every single
or whatever his name is.
Anytime you think there's a foul, they're just going to review.
Yeah.
They're already bringing the thing out there so that we don't have to run all the way back to the camera and look at it. It's like they're already trying to speed things up, but this is just like taking a step back. And I agree with you, Jordan. I think it's just a little short-sighted, a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to a problem, but it's like I think it's just short, like you said, it's just short-sighted. It's just going to cause more problems than it will good, and I think we'll probably get rid of it after the 2019 season.
Well, that is part of the press release, too, that the NFL put out, is that the rule change is only in effect for the 2019 season. So this is going to be somewhat of a pilot program, so hopefully, they're putting out a Band-Aid fix with, like, a plan for actual surgery down the line.
Hopefully. Mm-hmm. Oh, and another thing I actually just saw here a little bit, the Alliance of American Football might be folding after this year.
Who would have thought?
The NFLPA isn't supporting them as much, and they aren't getting as much money. So the NFL or the Alliance kind of owner and kind of the main man said that they might be folding after this season. Crazy to think that this.
Vince McMahon, where are you?
I know we need the XFL. I mean, like, who really watches the Alliance? Like, I watched, like, the first 2 games of...
Well, I mean, like, we're probably their target audience, right? I mean, our favorite players from college, or favorite, all right.
People that came from the University
of Idaho that still made it to professional football, we're basically their target audience, right? And, like...
You got Austin Rico out there punting the ball.
You got Matt Linehan playing backup, it's...
Yeah. Because the one thing I wanted to see was Dennis Erickson return to football. Like,
exactly.
that was what was missing from my life. But no, in all honesty, like, it is unfortunate that, like, the AAF is already going through these kind of troubles, but, like, it just doesn't, this didn't really seem like the greatest of ideas from the beginning. I think that if we're going to get a second football league, like, it's going to have to come as a direct initiative from the NFL.
Yeah.
Almost like their own G League in a way or something like that.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what people, I kind of perceived it as. It was just like, it was a development league for guys, for college athletes or guys who can't quite make the NFL to come in, play football. I think they need to move it to the summer when there's not really a ton of sports.
There's nothing going on.
There's baseball.
Sports Center is the worst of the summer.
Maybe Olympics and maybe soccer. Those are the only 3 things. But in terms of the U.S. audience, it's like not baseball. Even then,
about soccer.
Yeah, baseball even then is like kind of coming back. The audiences are getting smaller. So it's like move that to the summer. Play a 2-month, 3-month season. Just have.
And I would love to see. It's a New England organization, but with just a name change for a G League type team. The New England Freedom. Or something, whatever it would be.
Exactly.
It's like it's. I feel like this is just the first season, and they'll just kind of transition, and they'll kind of change within the next couple of years here.
Speaking of that, I think I heard someone say that they're like, some of these AAF teams, man, I thought it was a WNBA team at first, with some of these names that they had. No disrespect to the WNBA, but...
No, absolutely not.
Some of these names aren't the Orlando Apollos. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. That's the one they brought up.
And you're just kind of like, Salt Lake Stallions. Don't know about this.
I know. Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to transition into our last segment here, our Mike Leach Awards, where we go for the kind of the best sports headline we saw over this past week. And Jonah, since you're our special guest, you get to go first on this.
You get honors.
So, first I should have cleared this up beforehand, but are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
No.
Okay, good. So this is going to have to be a little bit more creative, but for those of you that didn't catch what happened on Twitter yesterday, as a matter of fact, CBS does this thing that's a players-only broadcast, like kind of highlights sort of thing, and one of the more common commentators on it is Shaquille O'Neal, right? And Shaq does an incredible job of forgetting he's on television sometimes, and this happened on this happened when he was talking about a play between the Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat, where Heat player just absolutely dunks all over the Magic, right? And in this instant, Shaq, love him, great character, completely forgets what's supposed to happen on TV and quotes a very, very famous Ludacris song from the early 20s about getting out of the way. Shall we say. And great Twitter moment. I really wish I could have seen it live, just to like actually see how, like, what the rest of the studio's reaction was, because this sort of stuff happens all the time, especially with Shaq.
On too.
Yeah.
Especially,
He's a
exactly.
DJ. He does like.
Oh yeah,
He's
exactly.
He's in every little advertisement and endorsement you could think of.
And first ever African American member of the Papa John's board of directors. So congratulations, Shaq.
I'm about to say, Shaq just got on the board of
Exactly.
Papa John's.
Maybe he's letting it a little bit loose. But anyways, Mike Leach Award for this week, and probably should be every week, Shaquille O'Neal.
All right, I'll go up next here. So Rob Gronkowski, tight end for the New England Patriots, has announced his retirement from the NFL. And one interesting stat that he went out on, he played in 115 games. He had 79 touchdown catches. That averages to .69 touchdowns a game. And it's the most Gronk way. If you're a fan of the NFL, you know Gronk. It is the most Gronkowski way he could have exited his career.
I also heard
could not have been more perfect.
I also heard he wants to be an analyst. I'm like, I don't know if you can make it on with your.
I think he'd be like a Pat McAfee, like come in.
Yeah,
for one game a year.
Yeah, like that week 17, just high energy, just bring him in. I mean,
he's just so jabroni on the camera.
No one can take him seriously because he's just that.
I know, right?
He's just like a man child.
What a hat! You just
could be straight to Barstool. I mean,
Barstool or WWE. Those are the two places I think he will just mesh perfectly. But yeah, averaging .69 touchdowns a game for his career, you literally can't have made that any more perfect, even if you tried.
Exactly.
So my Mike Leach Award is not necessarily funny. It's just interesting. Conor McGregor retiring from the MMA.
Yeah.
You know, it just wasn't a random retirement. Apparently, he has a sexual assault case against him in Ireland, which I'm just like, man, you have a beautiful wife and kid. You have all the money in the world, like, and you're still doing this crap, you know, over in your home country where you're looked at pretty highly, I would say, you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Ireland doesn't have
icon.
You don't have much but Guinness and Conor McGregor, so but you know, so he's done now, I guess. I can see it. I can see him coming back. Didn't he say he was going to retire in 2016 too, or something? Yeah. And then they ended up fighting again.
After the Nate Diaz loss, I think. But I mean, yeah, unfortunate that these allegations are popping up, and it just kind of seems that he might be guilty with the retirement coming so quickly, and then the allegations coming out from the New York Times immediately after.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're not true, because I mean, you hate to see anyone be victimized, or you hate to see people being taken advantage of by stars like these, and so. Especially McGregor with the platform that he's on, it's the icon he is
got the pattern of behavior from McGregor too, though. I mean, like with the whole bus assault that happened last year. I mean,
he just got charged in Florida for another assault, like
breaking someone's phone or something. He like took it and broke it.
He might have retired, but he's definitely not going away anytime soon.
No.
I also want to point out another interesting storyline. The lawyer that represented Stormy Daniels, he's going after Nike now for the same allegations that Adidas had and got charged with. I'm pretty sure they got prosecuted and everything, but that would be huge if Nike's doing the same thing, because now you're thinking, all right, go look at Under Armour now. Like now we need to go look at everybody, because apparently if the two top dogs are doing it, I don't know, we'll see what happens. Good luck, Nike. I hope you're not doing that.
Yeah, so a lot of serious storylines that we can see in the future. But thank you for joining us on this edition of the Vandal Scoreboard podcast. Thanks to Jonah Baker for being on the show. You can catch Brandon and I next week as well. You can catch all of our works at thevandalnation.com and at UI Argonaut. Catch Brandon on Inside the Vandals. Jonah also has some pieces from there from last year. Thank you all for watching and listening, and go Vandals.